Today is Monday, the 12th of January 2026. And I believe you can all hear me loud and clear. Let me just say hi to everyone. Good morning, Ayomiku Odunaike. Good morning, Colin Sanyawu, Edoze Chukwugo, Eze, Mark Brown. Good morning to you. Madam Onaji, good morning. And Okbolu Akolawale. I hope more people will join us with time as we continue the session. All right, so let's look at the fundamentals we have for the week. Now, we can see there are a lot of high impact events expected this week, especially I think I set a filter last week, so I think it's showing more of the United States. Oh, okay, everything is perfect. So we have more United States dollar for our events this week. Just a second, please. Okay, that means I just more of USD and one GBP event for the whole week. Wow, that's quite strange. That's quite strange. But then that's what is in the market. All right. If there's any other changes, we'll definitely let you know. So today, Monday, Japan is having a bank holiday. So the Japanese yen will not have much activity on it. Good morning, Madam Onaji. Will not have much activity on the Japanese yen. And on Tuesday, tomorrow, we're going to have our core CPI monthly, and CPI yearly from the United States. So we're trading live again tomorrow. Now, if you joined us on Friday to trade the NFP, I believe you made money because people did make money. So tomorrow again is another time with us. We told us that we're going to have CPI also this week. I didn't know it was even going to come up so fast. Usually it comes up around maybe Wednesday, Thursday, but then it's coming up tomorrow. CPI is coming up tomorrow live. We'll still broadcast it for all our clients. So get ready to trade live again tomorrow by 2:30 p.m. So that's it for tomorrow for the United States dollar. And on Wednesday, the key events on Wednesday will be the core PPI, core retail sales, PPI monthly, and retail sales by 2:30 p.m. That means we're expecting some volatility on the dollar again on Wednesday. Though we'll not be trading this one live, we can trade it independently. In fact, it's about six events by that 2:30 p.m. Core PPI, core retail sales, PPI, retail sales, core PPI monthly, October data. So all comes up on Wednesday by 2:30 p.m. And on Thursday, there'll be gross domestic product GDP from the United Kingdom by 8 a.m. I want us to take note of that. It's a high impact event which will give volatility in the market. Good morning, Madam Ms. Omotosho. Good morning. You're welcome on board. And on Thursday, the other important event will be unemployment claims from the United States, uh, Empire State Manufacturing Index, and Philly Fed Manufacturing Index. All comes up by 2:30 p.m. So we expect volatility on that also. So on Thursday, two events to trade, the British pound by 8 a.m. and the United States dollar by 2:30 p.m. Friday, as at this moment, there is no tradable event. All right, so those are the major events we need to watch out for this week. Now I'm going to switch over to the chart to show us my expectations technically, for the week. So I'm going straight to my MetaTrader chart. All right, so technically, I'm looking at the dollar. And I'm looking at the potential bearish movement on the dollar. So how do we come about this? On the daily time frame, the market closed last week with price, there's a previous support turn resistance, which actually price broke it, but then that resistance is still a bit valid. And not only that, if you go further, On the daily time frame here, we can clearly see that price, is having an overall downtrend. All right, so we can see that price is having an overall, downtrend, downward movement. It's having a free fall. Price has made a series of lower high, lower high, lower high, and the candle for last week touched it also. So technically, we're expecting a bearish movement on the USD CHF for this week. That's on the daily time frame, so it covers this week. Now, on the 1 hour version of it, this is what I'm seeing on the 1 hour. We have a rising wedge pattern. Now you can see overnight price has actually broken out downwards. You can see that sharp bearish candle which broke out rather overnight. Let's check the timing that happened. Currently, the time is 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 a.m. There was that massive breakout. So we're already in the bearish trend. However, price broke out, is retesting that previous support on resistance on the daily time frame. Then we expect a further movement downwards, possibly in the course of today. So this is my view on the USD CHF. We're going to wait for price to make a breakout below this minor support on the 1 hour, then we can trigger a sell on the USD CHF. So we're bearish on the USD CHF for today. And maybe, I don't know, by extension, it may extend it tomorrow. It all depends on how the market is, the volatility is strong enough to push price downwards. Now, when the breakout happens, price is expected to possibly target the first Fibonacci level, which is Fibonacci 50 at around 12 pips. So that means for the first price level, it's more like a scalping trade of just looking like taking around like 10 pips. Now, if price breaks out below the Fibonacci 50, it will proceed to Fibonacci 61.8 at 25 pips, and possibly later on to Fibonacci 78.6 at about 44 pips. But the first price target level we're anticipating is just roughly 10 to 12 pips on the USD CHF. Now, on this one also, other confirmation to prove, the market is really bearish. RSI is already clearly below 50. It's at 41, and MACD is already below 0. So the only thing we're waiting for now is just that breakout from the current support zone, and you're free to trigger a sell on the USD CHF. So watch out for that in the course of today. And similarly, USD JPY also, is having a bearish trend. Reason is because price currently is trading around a resistance level from the weekly time frame. This is a resistance level, resistance zone on the weekly time frame. That's where price is trading at the moment. This is the high. This is the second. Price is trading within that second high zone. So technically, we're looking for a reversal in the course of today and possibly in the course of the week. And if you take it down to 1 hour time frame, now earlier on I was looking at maybe an inverse head and shoulder, but it's not looking like it's forming that at the moment. But notwithstanding, we might be looking for a breakout in the bearish direction if price is able to break this minor. Initially it was looking like it was going to form, something like this, but like I always say, in as much as I like patterns, I don't get hung up. If it's not working, just ignore and look at the direction. What is ultimately important is the direction. All right, so I'll be looking at price breaking out below this support to trigger a sell on the USD JPY. For confirmation of the RSI below 50, if MACD can cross below 0, perfect. But if not, even the RSI is sufficient enough to lead us to a bearish breakout. So we're bearish on the USD JPY, just like we're bearish on the USD CHF. And also the USD card is still bearish. You can see that most of the dollar pairs are giving us a bearish, outlook. For the USD card, this is actually my view. Price is trading within the range of a previous support turned resistance. And here is that previous support, turn resistance on the daily time frame. So we might be expecting, some bearish movement on the USD card. So we can flip down to the 1 hour time frame, and this is 1 hour. We can draw our rising wedge pattern and wait for price. You can see that price is already testing that region. It's even broken a little below, but that's not strong enough to take a bearish trade yet. We'll be waiting for a clearer confirmation with RSI clearly below 50. RSI still at 52, MACD still above zero. So we're waiting for a clearer RSI and MACD to trigger a sell on the USD card. So we're bearish on the USD CHF, the USD JPY, the USD card. So that tells us overall the dollar is very, very bearish. Now, all the setup I've given, they are all on the 1 hour time frame. So they are intraday and expected to trigger possibly in the course of today. Now, I'm also looking at the AUD USD. Now, don't forget what we're doing is the weekly analysis. Some of this setup might span the better part of the week. So it's not just for today alone. So I want you to watch them closely. All right. So like I said, I'm also looking at the AUD USD for this week. And for this AUD USD, I have an interesting setup on this one. The price closed last week with a very sharp rejection candle on the weekly time frame. Now, if you followed my teachings, my trainings, rejection candles are very powerful because they can point us to reversals in the market, especially when they happen around resistance to support zones, or even when they find themselves around trend lines, they can easily bounce, to the required direction. So with this rejection candle, we are technically expecting a reversal on the AUD USD for this week. But then we need further confirmation, not just the candles alone. And we're going to get that with the trend line. Now, on the weekly time frame, we can see that the trend line is trending downwards, indicating an overall bearish sentiment. And you can see that the last week candle is being touched by the trend line. The trend line, the rejection candle rather, is touching the trend line on the weekly time frame. That's an indication of a reversal in price for this week. So I'll flip straight to 4 hour time frame, because when you have a setup on the weekly, it's best to check for entry on the 4 hour. Weekly is already giving us a swing outlook. Now, on the 4 hour time frame, you can see we have a rising wedge, a very big rising wedge pattern. And I'm currently, now price has broken out below the lower trend line and is retesting the trend line. Now, I said we are going to be bearish, but then it looks like it's going bullish. Fine. Just relax. The bullish movement is just a temporary, it's a short-term movement, because I'm seeing this might eventually form what may look like a head and shoulder pattern before we find the final breakout. So I maintain my bearish outlook on the AUD USD, even though at the moment it's looking like it's going bullish. But like I said, that is just a temporary movement to complete the second shoulder. This is the first shoulder, head, second shoulder, then we expect a breakout. Now, if this setup works out as planned, I tell you, this is going to be a very sweet trade for this week. So if you're there, you're a swing trader, just relax. Something is cooking, for us for this week. All right. So if it works out, like I said, using my Fibonacci tool, profit target might look as close as about 35 pips to Fibonacci 30.2, and about 76 pips to Fibonacci 50, and as much as about 115 pips to Fibonacci 61.8. So let's watch out and see how this forms in the course of the week, and we'll definitely let you know when this triggers into a full-blown trade. So let's watch out. So that's it. I'm bearish on the AUD USD on the 4 hour time frame. Like I said, this is purely a swing trade setup. Also, I'm looking at the Euro card for this week. Now, like I always say, some of us will join analysis, but then we still choose to trade other pairs. Well, definitely you are at liberty to trade whatever is of interest to you. But I will advise that you trade more of the ones we have taken time to analyze to you, because they are more of a high probability trade setup. So this 2026, Just follow Uno Road, follow the ones you analyze. You definitely get better results with it than any other pair you might feel like trading. Okay, so this is Eurocard on the daily time frame, and we can see that the overall trend is bearish, and then price also hit previous support turned resistance. And not only that, we had a rejection candle last week, right there, bearish one. Now, but you tell me that the current candle is looking green. Fine. Like I said, I always say it, you don't follow the color of the candles on the hour time frame. That's not what you should get worried about. Technically, what I'm seeing is a potential for a reversal on the euro card. An overall trend on the daily, a support on resistance, a rejection candle. I look at a bearish outlook on the euro card. Now we can flip down to 1 hour time frame. And what I'm seeing on 1 hour now is, yeah, it's not as sharp and as beautiful as expected. Price is hitting the previous high here, is giving me the outlook of possibly a double top pattern, which may give us eventually a bearish reversal. We can still have our trend line this way and possibly a second one at the back. So either ways, we have a rising wedge on 1 hour and a potential head and shoulder pattern, all things being equal, which is expected to give us a bearish breakout. So I'm bearish on the euro card on 1 hour time frame, except if market condition changes. But at the moment, I hold a bearish outlook on the euro card on the 1 hour time frame. Okay, I think those are the major setup I will give us for this week. But then let me just drop this last trade, and that will be XRP. So you're there, you are a crypto trader, something is cooking on XRP. XRP is a Ripple, and what I'm seeing is actually a swing setup. So trade with caution. Please, strictly for crypto traders. Like I always say, whatever we teach you on how to trade Forex is applicable to all the markets. It's applicable to stocks, applicable to indices, applicable to commodities, and even cryptos. So it works across board. This is top-down analysis, so it works across all financial assets. Now, this is XRP USD on on the weekly time frame. You can see that price is trending downwards, price touching the trend line, lower high, and last week the old candle ended up as a bearish rejection candle, not just an ordinary rejection candle. This is a perfect looking doji. So technically, we are looking for a downtrend movement on the XRP this week. So if we flip down to the daily time frame, nothing much on the daily, but then our focus is actually the 4 hour time frame. Now the 4 hour time frame, I'll be looking at price breaking out below this current low to trigger a sell on the XRP. Now, please watch. Two things could happen. It's possible we have an outright bearish breakout. That's possible to have an outright breakout. Or price may go possibly retest that trend line again before breaking out. But what is most important to me is price breaking out below this support zone to trigger a sell on the XRP. So either way the market goes, either an instant breakout or a slightly bullish, then later bearish. All I'm waiting for is a bearish breakout on the XRP. So I'm bearish on the XRP. That is a Ripple for this week. Now, if this setup works out as planned, price is projected to hit the following levels of profit. There's a minor support here. Price will likely, okay, there are actually 3 price levels. This previous resistance, possibly turning support is a key level, a major support there. And finally, we have the third support level. Price will likely hit 1, 2, or all 3 of these levels. And that can give an average of about 116 pips to the first level, about 197 pips to the second level, and about 250 pips to the third level. So you're there, you're a crypto trader, swing crypto trader. just watch out for this setup in the course of the week. All right, so that will be all from my analysis for this morning. I'll be taking questions. You have other instruments you want me to analyze for you, please go ahead and drop it in the comment section. I'm attending to that now. For those who joined us late, we announced we're going to be having CPI live trading tomorrow. CPI is Consumer Price Index. Is a major fundamental tool in the United States. Last Friday, we had an FP outcome came out, at least, from our strategy, we were able to catch some good pips. And tomorrow will also not be an exception. Like I always say, we know how to do it right with live trading at CPI. I mean, at PU Prime, especially when it comes to NFP and CPI. So join us tomorrow for CPI live trading. We'll drop communication with you, to you rather, on across all our uh, platforms, WhatsApp group, Telegram groups, and every other one that you might belong to. So just watch out in the course of today for a communication from us on CPI, which holds tomorrow. Okay, so I'm taking questions now. Collins is asking me to check Euro USD and iPhone. iPhone, please, I will appreciate if you can put your real name so that I'll not be calling you iPhone. You're an individual, you're not a phone. So can you analyze Euro AUD and AED cards, sir? Definitely. So let's start with the Euro USD. Darlington White is asking me to check out gold. Definitely we will. So let's start with Euro USD. All right, so Euro USD, on the 1 hour time frame, price earlier on was trading around a previous support. Okay, resistance turn support. Resistance, support. So technically, we're looking at a bullish breakout on the Euro USD. We're bearish on the USD JPY, USD CHF, and USD CAD. So it's just right technically to have a bullish outlook on the Euro USD. Now, this actually the dollar index where we ought to have started the whole thing. You can see the dollar index, that was a price was trading around the previous support turn resistance last week. So technically, we should have a weak dollar this week, and that's why we saw bearish outlook on the Euro USD, the USD CAD, the USD CHF. Now, for Euro USD is a bullish sentiment, and on 1 hour, I'm seeing an inverse head and shoulder, which has clearly formed on the 1 hour time frame. Price also has broken out below the upper trend line. Now, this wasn't so clear on the USD CHF, so it's a good thing that we have it very clear on the Euro USD. Now, there are rules around inverse head and shoulder or head and shoulder pattern, and that rule is that price needs to break out above the neckline for an inverse head and shoulder. So if a new candle breaks out above this current uh, neckline region, we'll be looking at buying the Euro USD. RSI is already clearly above 50. MACD is already clearly above zero. So this is already in the bullish zone. We're only waiting for a new candle to break out above here to trigger a buy on the Euro USD. Now, profit potential on this can be as much as, okay, just like the USD CHF, just about 10 pips to Fibonacci 50. In fact, this one is even like 8, 9 pips. But then I think price could still make its way up to Fibonacci 61.8, very possible. And if we have a lot of volatility, it may proceed as much as to Fibonacci 78.6. So we're anticipating price to move as much as between 10 pips to about 40 pips on the Euro USD in the course of today. Yeah, this should be today. So we're bullish on the Euro USD. Please take note of that and watch clearly for the next candle that will break out above that neckline region. All right, so that's it for Mr. Collins Anyanwu. Okay, so iPhone is asking me to check Euro AUD and AUD card. Okay, so let's start with the Euro AUD. Now, I want you to know that for Euro AUD and the AUD card, the for AUD card, the AUD is actually the base currency, whereas it's the quote in the Euro card. So let's check it out. Now, for the Euro AUD, we can see that price closed last week, touching the support zone on the weekly time frame. So technically, that is giving us the possibility of a reversal for this week. So this is the 4 hour time frame. But then I'm not really getting a clear-cut uh, kind of pattern I would really love to see on this one. So I won't really call it a high probability setup like that. But let's just see how it goes. Um, I'm seeing what may look like a double bottom on 1 hour, and that may trigger a buy if price breaks out above this neckline region. So let's just go by what we are seeing at the moment. We have a bullish sentiment for the week and possibly an inverse, sorry, a double bottom pattern. If price breaks out above the neckline, we can have, some appreciable bullish movement on the Euro AUD on 1 hour. Let me use the Fibonacci to see if we can get some levels here. So price may target Fibonacci 61.8 at about 40 pips and possibly Fibonacci 78.6 at about 95 pips. So between 40 and 90 pips is possible if this setup works as planned. If it works as planned, yeah, between 40 to about 80 pips is possible on the Euro AUD. So we're bullish on the Euro AUD on 1 hour. And AUD card is the next one. Now for AUD card on the weekly time frame, price closed on a resistance level last week. So we have a resistance level on the weekly where price closed. So technically, we should be looking for a downtrend on the AUD card this week. .4 hour or 1 hour. Now this one is not even giving us any setup at all. But then what is still possible is this minor support zone here. If price is able to break that minor support, we may see, some appreciable bearish movement on the AUD card. But I would rather see you put more of a focus on the Euro AUD. That seems to have, a little bit of more clearer outlook compared to the AUD card. Don't forget the AUD is in both. For the AUD card, the AUD is a base currency, and for the Euro AUD is the code. So that Euro AUD seems to have a clearer perspective compared to the AUD card. So I would suggest you go with the Euro AUD. Don't try to trade both of them together. Don't try to sell one and buy one. That sometimes doesn't work out as planned. Just stick with one. And like I said, I would prefer you stick with the Euro AUD. So that's our responses for. Okay, thank you. Our iPhone has put the real name, which is Yasir Ghana. Thanks for that update. So that response is actually for you. So just take note of that. And Darlington White is asking me to check gold. So let's look at gold. Wow. So overnight, okay, we had some breakout on gold overnight. Now, gold is going to be more fundamentally driven in this season, largely because of a lot of activities of the United States, around the world. Last week I think that was last week was the arrest of the Venezuelan president, and the United States is proposing an oil deal, with Venezuela. That definitely will That's what led to the spike, in gold last week. Now, gold is currently trading around a trend line, an uptrend, which may lead to possibly a slight reversal. I'm not giving you anything on gold now, but then technically we might be expecting some little downtrend before price may continue on the uptrend side. So if we have a breakout below here, you may just trigger a sell, but then that will be a scalping sell, not something you want to stay long in, because we may have a bullish breakout eventually. But if you want to stay safe, I'll rather advise you just wait for price to break above this zone. Like I said, it's more fundamental driven at this period. So if price breaks out above that, that range box up there, we expect a further bullish continuation on gold. Otherwise, you may just scalp a little before the reversal happens. All right, so that's my outlook on gold. Okay, so that'll be all from the analysis this morning. Please take note of all the instruments I've analyzed. Take note of them. They are carefully analyzed because majority of them have a high probability setup. So we expect them to trigger, in the course of the week. Okay, before I go, there's one I've not analyzed, which is the GBP NZD. I'm just looking at it now. And for GBP NZD, the price closed last week, on a resistance zone with a rejection candle on the daily time frame. So technically, we're expecting, a bearish movement on GBP NZD for this week. And I'll be looking at this more from the swing angle, though there's a 1 hour version to it, but I prefer the swing version. That's on the 4 hour time frame. All right, so this is a 4 hour swing version. We're going to be expecting the breakout to the downside in the course of the week on GBP NZD, and our confirmation will be RSI clearly below 50, and MACD has to be below 0 on this one. It's swing, so that would be better. Now, it's possible for us to have this as a head and shoulder, and that may be the 1 hour I mentioned, but the effect is not going to be much on 1 hour. It's still going to be on that swing. So whether it works out as that or not, overall, I'm looking for a bearish breakout on GBP NZD, for this week. And potentially that can generate as much as about 76. Okay, let's just say 70 pips to Fibonacci 38.8, about 129 pips to Fibonacci 50, and about 186 pips to Fibonacci 61.8. So we're bearish on the GBP NZD. Okay, fabulous. Definitely, we post the link to all this analysis. So watch out on your groups because we will drop them very, very soon. Okay, so that'll be all this morning, rather, for our analysis. Do trade safe and have a great week ahead. Bye bye.